You've been holding it in for too long. That ache in your chest, the silence in your spirit, the weight you never dared to name. You've smiled through it, worked through it, prayed through it, but somewhere deep inside you wonder, does anyone see me? Does God even care anymore? Let me tell you right now, not with empty comfort, not with polite theology, but with divine certainty. God is in your room, not watching from afar, not waiting for you to get it together, not analyzing your prayers for perfection. He is here, closer than your next breath, closer than the thoughts racing through your mind right now, closer than the fear you buried behind your "I'm fine." This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is holy. You didn't call him with words. Your ache did. Your silence did. Your surrender, even if unspoken, was heard in heaven. And God has come, not to lecture you, not to condemn, but to lift you, to hold what you've been hiding, to speak peace where pain has been shouting. This isn't just another message. This is your divine appointment. And everything is about to change. You didn't say a word. You didn't lift your hands. You didn't kneel beside your bed and cry out in perfect sentences. But God heard you anyway. That tremble in your chest. That quiet sigh you try to disguise as a yawn. That moment you paused just for a second and felt something crack deep inside. That was your soul calling for help. And heaven responded, not with thunder, not with flashing lights, but with something stronger. Presence. God didn't wait for your speech. He didn't need rehearsed prayers or polished phrases. He came for your ache. He responded to your exhaustion. He stepped into the silence where no one else dared go and whispered, "I'm here." Right now, this very second, you're not alone. You may feel unseen. You may believe no one could possibly understand what's going on behind your smile. But you are known, intimately, tenderly, wholly. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34, verse 18. That's not just a verse. That's a promise. And it's being fulfilled in your room. You might wonder, why now? Why this moment? Why is God showing up when I didn't even ask? Because he never left. You didn't notice him because your mind was crowded with noise, bills, regrets, broken conversations, sleepless nights, shame too heavy to name. But through it all, he stayed. Every tear you swallowed, every emotion you shoved deep down, every question you were afraid to voice. He saw it all, and he waited, not with impatience, not with anger. He waited with love, because love never forces itself. Love never demands performance. Love doesn't need a stage. It needs a heart that's open, even just a little. And yours cracked open without you realizing it. The night you couldn't sleep. The morning you didn't want to wake up. The afternoon where everything felt heavy for no clear reason. Those weren't random. They were holy moments, invitations for God to enter. And he did. Maybe you didn't feel a shift. Maybe you didn't see a sign. But still, something happened. The air changed. You walked into your room, thinking it was just another day, another fight to stay afloat, another routine to survive. But the atmosphere was already different. Not because you did something spectacular, but because God came. You didn't have to find him. You didn't have to scream or beg. Because he's not the kind of God who waits behind locked doors. He walks through walls. Walls of fear, shame, anxiety, and silence. Right now, his presence is surrounding you. Not metaphorically. Literally. The stillness you're starting to feel isn't your imagination. It's him. That sudden urge to breathe a little deeper. That unexpected calm in your chest. That moment when you felt the tension loosen, even slightly. That was Jesus. He came not to observe, but to stay. You've gotten used to chaos. You've learned how to function under pressure. You become a master at appearing okay when everything inside feels like it's caving in. But God didn't come for your mask. He came for you. The unedited, exhausted, aching version of you. The one who doubts and believes at the same time. The one who trusts but trembles. The one who says, "God, I want to believe you're near, but it's been so long." To you, he says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock." If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in. Revelation 3, verse 20. But tonight, God didn't wait for the door. He walked through your ache. Because when love hears suffering, it doesn't wait for protocol. It moves. He saw the moment you clench your jaw to hold back tears. He watched as you whispered, "I'm fine," when your soul was crumbling. He noticed the way you hurried through your day, hoping that distraction would ease the weight. And he moved closer. You've wondered if your breath matters. You question whether your pain is too small to bring to God. But let me tell you, every sigh is a song to him. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness with groanings too deep for words. Romans 8, verse 26. You don't have to translate your heart into eloquent speech. He speaks fluent sorrow. He understands the language of silence. The sigh you let out when you thought no one could hear, that was a prayer. And he answered it, not later, not eventually, but right now. You are not forgotten. You're not too far. You are not invisible. You are held. God sees the parts of you you've hidden even from yourself, the dreams you buried, the hope you once had but don't dare resurrect, the version of yourself that used to believe things could get better. He sees it all, and he hasn't given up on any of it. You think you're too broken. You think you've waited too long. You think maybe you've missed your moment. But God says, I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten. Joel 2, verse 25. You haven't missed anything. You've been preserved, protected, prepared. And tonight, God is reclaiming what was stolen. He's not just showing up to comfort. He's here to restore, to rebuild, to resurrect the tears you didn't cry, the words you couldn't say, the weight you carried in silence. He saw it all, and he's doing something about it. But not through thunder, not through drama, through nearness. His robe brushes against your thoughts. His peace rests on your shoulders like a blanket. His spirit whispers in ways your ears can't hear, but your soul understands. He's not standing across the room, arms folded. He's beside you, closer than your skin, closer than your pain, closer than your own breath. And here's the truth no one told you. God doesn't need your perfection. He needs your permission. You don't have to clean yourself up first. You don't have to be strong enough to deserve his comfort. He's already here. And he's not asking you to do anything except this. Let go. Let go of trying to hold it all together. Let go of pretending you're okay. Let go of the guilt that says you should be stronger by now. Let go of the lie that says you're too much or not enough. Let go of the fear that whispers, what if God doesn't stay? Because he will. He always has. You may not have seen him, but he was there when the pain came. He was there when they walked away. He was there when the door slammed shut and no one knocked again. He's still there, in your room, in your story, in your silence, and now in your restoration. So take a breath. Let the stillness settle. You're not crazy for feeling like something holy is happening. You're not imagining it. You are being met by God, not because you earned it, but because he loves you, and he's not leaving. You've grown used to the silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that lingers like a question you're too tired to ask again, the kind that creeps in at night when the lights go off and the noise of the world dies down, leaving only your thoughts loud and unfiltered. You don't talk about it. You keep moving. You work. You smile. You serve. You keep functioning like someone who has it together. But inside, there's a storm, one that never stops swirling. And in that silence, you've started to believe the worst lie of all. Maybe God stopped listening. Not because he's cruel, not because he's mad, but maybe you just aren't worth the nearness you once felt. Maybe you messed up. Maybe you missed a moment. Maybe the version of you he loved is no longer the one you are. But listen, let this truth break the weight of that lie. God is still here. He never moved. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Hebrews 13, verse 8. His love doesn't flicker. His nearness doesn't operate on a schedule. He didn't show up in your past and then disappear when things got messy. No, he stayed, even when your faith flickered, even when your confidence in prayer dissolved, even when the worship felt hollow and the scripture felt distant. He was still there, You see, the silence you fear isn't always absence. Sometimes it's sacred. It's the space where he's doing work too deep for words, where he's mending the broken places you stopped touching, where he's speaking, not with noise, but with nearness. That's what's happening now. Your heart is learning to recognize the voice of God, not in volume, but in weight. A holy pressure pressing against your fears, not to crush, but to calm. That quiet pull to rest, that pause in your anxiety, that breath you didn't know you needed to take. That's him. He speaks peace, and not the kind that lasts for a few minutes, the kind that rebuilds your soul from the ground up, the kind that replaces torment with truth, not a surface quiet, but a soul deep stillness. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. John 14, verse 27. That verse isn't fiction. It's what he's doing right now. But here's what you must understand. God's silence doesn't mean he's far. It means he's close enough not to shout. He doesn't raise his voice to get your attention. He leans in. He draws near. He speaks in the hush, because he knows your soul hears him even when your ears don't. You've asked, why don't I feel like I used to? You prayed, God, say something, anything. And then you grew quiet, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped expecting. But the truth is this. God never needed noise to be near. He's been in the stillness. He was there when you laid in bed, eyes wide open at 2 a.m., mind spinning. He was there when you sat in your car, staring blankly out the windshield, wondering what's next. He was there when you smiled at your friends and then wept in the bathroom minutes later. He was in all of it, and not just watching, attending. He was absorbing what no one else noticed. He was catching what you didn't have language for. He was listening to the tears you never cried out loud. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. Psalm 139, verse 4. He doesn't need your explanation. He already knows. He already feels. You've wondered if you're disappointing him, if your quietness has pushed him away, but he never required you to impress him with prayers. He only asked for your honesty. And right now, that exhausted silence, that's more honest than you realize. Your very existence in this moment, your breath, your tears, your survival, it's all speaking to heaven. And heaven is responding with more than comfort. Heaven is responding with intervention. God is not simply sitting beside you to sympathize. He's stepping in to shift the weight you've carried too long. He's not asking for performance. He's offering peace. Not peace you must work for. Peace you can collapse into. And the only requirement? Surrender. Let go of figuring everything out. Let go of fixing yourself. Let go of pretending you're fine. Let go of waiting for the right emotions to surface before you trust again. He's not here for your perfection. He's here for your permission. He's asking, will you let me carry what you weren't made to hold? If your answer is yes, even a trembling yes, then something holy is happening right now. The shift you prayed for, the clarity you've begged for, the release your soul has longed for. It doesn't start with strategy. It starts with stillness. Let yourself rest in his nearness. Let your mind breathe. Let your body soften. You don't have to brace anymore. You don't have to keep scanning your surroundings for the next disappointment. You don't have to stay on guard with God. He's not coming to strike. He's come to stay. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46, verse 10. Let that stillness wrap around you. Let it unravel the tension. Let it quiet the voices of failure, fear, and shame. You've had to be strong for too long. But strength without surrender is a prison. And God didn't create you to live chained. He came to set you free, not with demands, but with gentleness, not with expectations, but with grace, not with noise, but with nearness. He knows how tired you are. He knows the nights you wept into your pillow and then got up the next day like nothing happened. He knows the pressure you feel to be the stable one, the provider, the leader, the light for others. But he didn't design you to burn out trying to save everyone while ignoring your own soul. He designed you to dwell in him, to rest in him, to be loved, not just used. You're not a machine. You're not a function. You're a beloved child. And tonight, Your father is reclaiming his child from the lies that said your value is in your strength. It's not. Your value is in your surrender. And your surrender starts now, not tomorrow, not when you're more healed, not when you're more holy. Now, right now, God is in your room, not distant, not symbolic, present. So here's what you do. Close your eyes. Breathe. Let go. Let your tears fall if they need to. Let your shoulders drop. Let your soul open, even if only a crack. And feel it. That's not your imagination. That's not just emotional release. That's the weight of his glory entering your space. That's the King of Heaven sitting beside you, whispering, I never left. I've always been here. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to carry you until you remember how to fly again. This is sacred. This is real. This is your divine encounter. And it's only just beginning. There are words you never said, moments when the pain was too deep for explanation, times when language simply couldn't carry the weight of what you were feeling. So you stayed silent. And in that silence, you wondered, did anyone hear me? Did God still understand me? Let this be your answer. Yes, he heard it all, every unfinished sentence, every sigh that ended in a clenched jaw, every tear that paused in your eye but never fell. Before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65, verse 24. God didn't wait for the words to be complete. He moved at the sound of your ache. You didn't pray perfectly, but he responded anyway. You didn't speak loudly, but heaven leaned in. Why? Because he's not listening for polished words. He's listening for your heart. And your heart, it's been screaming louder than your voice ever could. You've been carrying a language the world doesn't recognize, a language of loss, confusion, and unanswered questions. And God speaks it fluently. He knows the sound of a dream that died quietly. He knows the rhythm of grief that lingers without permission. He knows how your heart breaks even when your face doesn't show it. And he's not asking you to explain it. He's asking you to release it. Let him hold what you couldn't find words for. Let him interpret the groanings that sit under your smile. Let him respond to the version of you that even you don't fully understand, because he's not afraid of your mystery. He's not confused by your contradiction, that you can believe and doubt in the same breath, that you can say, God, I trust you, and still tremble when you wake up. He already knew, and still he came. Still he's here. Still he's listening. You didn't call him with a trumpet. You didn't beg or barter. You didn't organize a perfect worship night or read 10 chapters to earn an encounter. You sighed. You exhaled. You sat in stillness, and God said, that's enough. I'm coming closer. You see, in the kingdom of heaven, vulnerability is volume. You didn't whisper weakness. You roared surrender, and heaven responded. You've learned to keep your pain private. You've been told to smile, to push through, to not make others uncomfortable with your chaos. So you edited yourself. You became the strong one, the composed one, the reliable one. But God never asked you to be the one who holds everything together. He's the one who is everything when you can't hold anything. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11, verse 28. That invitation wasn't just for the visibly broken. It was for you, the silently exhausted. And this is where he meets you, in your unspoken thoughts, in the place where your spirit moans in ways your mouth cannot echo, in the part of your soul that asks, will I ever be fully known, fully safe, fully loved? Yes, here, now, because he already knows you, the real you, the trembling, tired, still hoping you kind, and he still chooses to draw near. Your pain is not intimidating. Your doubt doesn't offend him. Your confusion doesn't make him flinch. In fact, it invites him closer. He's not looking for clarity. He's looking for surrender. He's not impressed by eloquence. He's moved by honesty. So tell him what hurts, even if it's messy, even if it's raw, even if it feels too repetitive, too dramatic, too much. You are not too much for him. That thing you're afraid to say out loud, he already knows, and he hasn't run away. He's still sitting beside you, still holding the atmosphere steady, while your soul unravels, still catching the pieces you didn't know were falling, still whispering, "I'm not leaving. You don't scare me. I've seen it all, and I'm still here." You convince yourself that because no one else saw it, it didn't matter. But God did. He was there in the moment the wound first formed, when the words were spoken, when the trust was broken, when the silence became deafening. He didn't just observe. He wept with you. Jesus wept. John 11, verse 35. That's not just the shortest verse in the Bible. It's the proof that the heart of God doesn't stand far away from human pain. He steps into it. He feels it. He enters it. And he's entering yours now. Right here, in this very space, there's a shift happening. A sacred one. Not because you screamed loud enough for him to notice, but because he already knew what you didn't say, and he came for it. Let that sink in. You don't have to tell him everything for him to heal everything. You don't have to rehearse the entire story. You don't have to relive every moment. You only have to let him in. He's already touching the memories, the quiet regrets, the whispered what ifs, the moments you still replay at night. He's stepping into every room you close off, every wound you covered up, every lie you believed because you thought it was the only way to survive. And he's bringing light, not to expose you, to heal you. You don't have to earn that light. You don't have to strive for it. You just need to yield. This is not punishment. This is not pressure. This is rescue. Let him rescue you from the silence, from the fear, from the isolation of believing your pain was invisible. It never was. He saw it, and he sees you. He's not just in the room. He's in the memory. He's in the ache. He's in the tension. And right now, his nearness is doing what no words ever could. It's healing, silently, powerfully, faithfully. The kind of healing that doesn't begin with shouting. It begins with presence. So take a breath. No more pretending. No more protecting God from your pain. He already carried it. Now let him hold you. And as you do, listen, not with your ears, with your spirit. He's speaking in stillness, in kindness, in restoration. You don't have to respond right now. You just need to receive. This is your moment, your sanctuary, your sacred appointment. And it all began with what you didn't say. You used to believe more. You used to pray with expectation. You used to dream without doubting. You used to wake up with hope, not just responsibility. But somewhere along the way, that changed. Life wore you down. Disappointments piled on top of each other. You learned to lower your expectations because getting your hopes up only led to getting hurt. So you stopped dreaming. You didn't mean to. It happened gradually, like a slow leak in the soul. Now you call it wisdom. Now you call it maturity. Now you say, I'm just being realistic. But let's be honest. It wasn't wisdom. It was survival. You've been protecting yourself from hope. Because hope feels dangerous when your heart has been broken. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. Proverbs 13, verse 12. Your heart got sick waiting. You cried out. You waited for answers. You begged God for clarity. And silence followed. Not rejection, not abandonment, but silence. And in that silence, you buried the dreams. Not because they were foolish, but because they became too painful to carry. So you locked them away. You told yourself they didn't matter anymore. You stopped bringing them up in prayer. But God never forgot. Because those dreams, the ones you abandoned, he planted them. They weren't emotional. They weren't random. They were seeds from heaven. And just because they've been buried doesn't mean they're dead. You see, God doesn't forget what he authored. And he hasn't changed his mind. That vision you once had, that calling that used to burn inside you, it's still alive. It's been preserved beneath the soil of your sorrow. But now, it's time to breathe again. Not because you're stronger. Not because your circumstances have changed. But because God is awakening what was buried. He's not resurrecting the dream to disappoint you again. He's doing it because the time is right. He let it rest. He let it sit. He let it grow deep where no one could see it. Because some things can't grow on the surface. Some things need the dark to develop roots. And you've been developing in the ache, in the silence, in the grief. Your roots have grown deep. Now, the breakthrough won't crush you. Now, the blessing won't ruin you. Now, the open door won't shake you, because now you're ready. And God is saying, it's time to dig again. Pick up the dream. Dust it off. Look at it, even if it scares you, because He's not asking you to do it alone. He's doing it with you. This is not about performance. This is about partnership. He never asked you to carry the vision by yourself. He asked you to believe. That's all. Believe that what He said still stands. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. Romans 11, verse 29. Irrevocable. That means it can't be taken back. Not by life. Not by failure. Not even by you. You think you gave it up. You think you forfeited your calling. You think your mistakes disqualified you. But God doesn't cancel what He calls. He redeems it. You haven't been disqualified. You've been requalified. Through the process, through the fire, through the waiting. You are not less useful because you've been through pain. You are more powerful because now your faith isn't shallow, it's seasoned. Now your passion isn't naive, it's rooted. Now your surrender isn't theoretical, it's lived. You don't just believe God can move. You've watched Him carry you when you had no strength left. And that is what makes you ready. Not perfect, not flawless, but ready to dream again, ready to risk again, ready to say, God, I'm willing, even if I'm scared. That willingness, that trembling yes, that's all God needs. You've waited for Him to move, but He's been waiting for your yes. Not your loud yes, not your confident yes, just your honest yes. And if that's what you can give today, even through tears, even through doubt, then heaven is already moving. Because the same God who resurrects bodies also resurrects dreams. Right now, something is coming back to life. Not because you pushed, not because you proved, but because you paused long enough for Him to whisper, I'm still not done with what I started in you. Let that hit deep. He's not done. He's not done writing. He's not done restoring. He's not done building. And He's not done with you. So what do you do now? Simple. Breathe. Open your heart again. Feel the flicker of hope, even if it terrifies you. And speak, not to the world, but to your soul. God hasn't changed His mind about me. And watch as what you thought was buried starts to bloom. You've been wondering if God made a mistake. Not out loud, maybe not even consciously, but deep down there's a quiet voice asking, why me? Why did He choose you to carry what's been so heavy? Why did He plant that dream in you if it would only bring pain? Why did He put you in this family, this season, this storm? You look around and feel unqualified. You compare yourself to others and feel behind. You replay your failures and ask, surely there's someone better for this than me. But here's the truth no one told you. God doesn't choose based on polish. He chooses based on purpose. And your purpose didn't get erased when you messed up. It didn't disappear when you doubted. It didn't get revoked when you broke down. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. 1 Corinthians 1 verse 27. He chose you, knowing your weakness, knowing your insecurity, knowing your past. He knew the mistakes you'd make. And still, He didn't back out. He didn't say, oops, wrong person. He said, exactly who I wanted. You think your mess disqualifies you. God says it makes you usable. Because people don't need a perfect example. They need a living testimony. And that's what you are. You've been through the fire. You've walked through disappointment. You've stood in silence, wondering if God still sees you. And now you're still standing. That's not failure. That's evidence of grace, of resilience, of anointing. You've been anointed for this. Not because you're strong, but because you're surrendered. Not because you're loud, but because your heart still says yes. Even if your voice shakes. Even if your hands tremble. Even if your journey has looked nothing like you imagined, you're still chosen. And God doesn't make mistakes. You're not a plan B. You're not a backup. You're not a last-minute decision. You were always part of the plan. He saw your whole story before you lived a single day. He saw the stumbles, the sin, the heartbreak, the questions. And still, he called you, not out of pity, out of purpose. Because what you carry, the oil, the testimony, the fire, it's not common. It's costly. You've paid a price for this anointing. Through nights of warfare, through mornings of confusion, through seasons of silence. You didn't just wake up spiritual. You bled for this. You wrestled for this. You've laid on your face crying, God, I can't take this anymore. And he answered not with escape, but with endurance. He said, you're stronger than you think, because I'm the one holding you. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. That's why you're still here. Not because you were the smartest, not because you had the best plan, but because grace held you when logic couldn't. And grace is holding you now, even when you feel forgotten, even when your name isn't being called, even when your obedience feels unseen. You think you're invisible, but you're being hidden, not to be overlooked, but to be preserved, protected, prepared. God hides what he values, and what he values most is you. So don't curse the season of silence. Don't despise the room where no one claps. That's the room where kings are formed. That's the wilderness where warriors are trained. That's the quiet where prophets hear clearly. You're not being punished. You're being purified. Because what's ahead requires depth. What's coming will demand everything. But it will also bring more joy than you've ever known. So don't walk away now. Don't believe a lie that says God picked wrong. He knew exactly who you were, and he still said yes. Now it's your turn to say yes again, even if you're tired, even if your heart is guarded, even if you don't feel holy. Say yes, because your yes, even now, is shaking the atmosphere. Angels respond to your obedience. Heaven aligns with your surrender. And all of hell trembles when a weary child of God still lifts their voice and says, I don't feel worthy, but I'll go if you send me. That's power. That's anointing. That's revival. And it starts with you. Some battles aren't visible. They don't leave scars on your skin. They don't show up on medical charts. They don't scream loud enough for people to notice. But they are real, and you've been fighting them. Quietly, faithfully, alone. You've smiled through them. You've gone to work through them. You've served in ministry, cared for your family, kept up appearances, all while fighting wars inside your soul. And no one saw it. They saw strength. They saw consistency. They saw you being strong. But they didn't see the spiritual warfare, the mental weight, the heaviness that crept into your bones when the lights went off. They didn't see how exhausted your faith became. They didn't hear the silent cries behind the locked bathroom door. They didn't feel the pressure building in your chest when the enemy whispered, you're not going to make it through this time. But God did. He saw it all. He watched every time you kept going when quitting seemed easier. He marked every night you lay awake begging for peace. He stood with you in the valley, not just cheering from heaven, but standing beside you in full armor. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14, verse 14. You thought you were fighting alone, but you never were. There were angels dispatched the moment your strength broke. There were battles happening in the spirit that your natural eyes could not see. There were breakthroughs being negotiated in heaven while you were on the floor whispering, help me, God. Your prayers weren't echoes. They were arrows. Every tear you cried was a weapon. Every breath you took when giving up felt easier was an act of spiritual warfare. You didn't just survive. You resisted. You pushed back against darkness. You stayed planted when the wind threatened to rip you from the ground. You said, God, I trust you, with cracked lips and a shaking voice. And that trust, that faith in the middle of the storm, terrified hell, because the enemy didn't expect you to last this long. He thought the disappointment would break you. He thought the silence would turn you bitter. He thought the loneliness would cause you to walk away. But you didn't. You stayed. Even if it was messy. Even if it was barely. Even if it felt like nothing was changing. You stayed. And because you stayed, heaven is moving. Right now, as you sit in this moment, there is warfare happening on your behalf. Not to punish. Not to test. But to deliver, God is fighting for what you can't reach. He's blocking attacks you didn't even know were coming. He's dismantling lies that tried to make their home in your mind. He's rewriting stories the enemy tried to finish without your consent. You've been in a battle, and now victory is approaching. You didn't earn it. You endured it. That's the difference. Some rewards aren't given because you were perfect. They're given because you stayed when everything told you to quit. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised. James 1 verse 12. That crown isn't for the loudest. It's for the faithful, the ones who stayed when the feelings left, the ones who worshiped in whispers, the ones who said, even if he doesn't, I still believe. That's you. And right now, something is breaking in the unseen, in the realm beyond your eyes. That heaviness you carried, it's lifting. That fog in your mind, it's clearing. That fear that gripped your chest, it's losing its power. Because Jesus is stepping into your battle, not as a spectator, but as a warrior. And he never loses. Not to depression, not to fear, not to shame, not to torment. He wins. Every time. So take heart. This warfare didn't mean God left you. It meant you were a threat. It meant the enemy saw what God placed in you. It meant your destiny was so dangerous that hell tried to destroy it early. But it's too late now. You've come too far. You've grown too deep. You've seen too much. You know what it means to be held by God in the fire. And that fire didn't consume you. It refined you. You are different now. Not weaker, wiser. Not broken, rebuilt. Not lost, led. This chapter of your life isn't titled defeated. It's titled delivered. Because while the battle was brutal, the outcome is sealed. God wins. And because you're with him, you win too. You woke up this morning, and it still looked the same. Same ceiling. Same burdens. Same unanswered questions. You looked around and wondered, God, did anything actually change? Because you felt his presence. You've cried in the stillness. You believed through the silence. But your reality hasn't caught up yet. The bills are still due. The door is still closed. The answer still hasn't come. And the enemy whispers, see? Nothing's different. It was all in your head. But don't fall for it. Because just because your eyes don't see it, yet doesn't mean heaven hasn't moved. Some breakthroughs happen instantly. Others happen invisibly. Until suddenly, everything shifts at once. God works in the unseen first. He transforms the root before the fruit appears. He rebuilds your inner world before he changes your external world. He prepares your spirit before he reveals your next step. Because he's not just giving you a moment, he's preparing you for sustainability. You don't need another emotional high. You need foundation. And that's what he's laying right now. It doesn't look like breakthrough. It doesn't feel like a miracle, but it's happening. We walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7. Faith doesn't ignore reality. It declares a deeper truth in the middle of it. You're not denying the pain. You're declaring purpose in it. You're not pretending everything's fixed. You're believing that what God started, he will finish. And that belief, that's your alignment. That's your weapon. That's your declaration in the face of delay. Because delay is not denial. Let that sink in. Delay is not denial. You think he forgot? You think he changed his mind? No. He's been setting the stage, adjusting the timing, preparing the people, aligning the atmosphere. You're not late. You're not lost. You're not off course. You're being positioned. Even now in the nothing. Even now in the waiting. Even now in the mundane daily grind. He's still working, just like a seed in the soil. You don't see movement for weeks, but that doesn't mean nothing's happening. Roots are growing. Structure is forming. Life is being established underground. And then one day, breakthrough. Overnight. Suddenly, the fruit appears. And people will say, wow, that was fast. But you'll know the truth. You bled in silence. You sowed in tears. You stayed in faith when no one else saw it. And now it's harvest time. You're closer than you think. That pressure you feel, that's not punishment. It's transition. Labor pains. Signs that what's been developing in secret is about to be revealed in public. Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6 verse 9. If you don't give up, if you don't let the silence fool you, if you don't let the wait steal your worship, then the harvest will come. Not maybe, not hopefully. It will, because he's not just a promise maker. He's a promise keeper. So lift your eyes, not because everything's changed, but because you've changed. You're not reacting anymore. You're responding in faith. You're not being tossed by the storm. You become anchored. You're not begging for proof. You're moving like it's already done. Because in the kingdom, the shift happens in you before it happens around you. And you're shifting. You've been rewired, reframed, reformed. You don't need a sign. You are the sign. The evidence that grace still works. That broken people can still carry glory. That faith still overcomes. So don't stop now. Don't lower your expectations to match what you see. Raise your eyes to match what he said, because heaven is moving, and what looks the same is about to change. You almost gave up, and no one knew. No one saw the moment your heart whispered, I can't keep doing this. No one noticed when your prayers got quieter, when your worship felt like routine, when your hands were lifted, but your faith was barely holding on. You still showed up, still served, still smiled, but on the inside, you were fading. You thought about walking away, not in rebellion, but in exhaustion. You weren't angry. You were tired, tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of trying to stay strong when nothing was changing. And in that moment, right in the middle of your surrender, something shifted, because you didn't just give up on the pressure. You gave God space, space to take over, space to move without your control, space to work in ways you stopped expecting. You let go, and that wasn't failure. It was faith. My power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9. Your weakness didn't push him away. It pulled him closer. Because surrender doesn't mean you've stopped believing. It means you've stopped striving. You're no longer trying to fix what only he can heal. You're no longer trying to build what only he can bless. That moment when you said, God, I have nothing left. He said, good, now I can begin. Because he's not looking for your strength. He's waiting for your surrender. When you let go of the outcome, when you stop performing for approval, when you finally allowed yourself to fall into his arms. He caught you. He never needed your perfection. He wanted your permission. And now, in the ruins of your expectations, he's rebuilding something better. Not the version you planned, but the one he designed. Not the timeline you wanted, but the one that won't collapse under pressure. You've reached the end of yourself, and that's where his glory begins. You thought your quitting disqualified you, but God says your surrender qualified you, because he never called the proud. He always called the surrendered. The Bible is full of people who hit rock bottom. Elijah begged to die under a tree. Moses told God he wasn't qualified. David cried alone in caves, hunted like an animal. Peter denied Christ and wept bitterly. Paul sat in prison cells, misunderstood and forsaken. And yet, they were all used powerfully, not after they got it together, but when they gave it up. You're not disqualified. You're positioned to receive grace in a form you've never tasted, to see power in a way you've never imagined, to carry peace that doesn't depend on performance. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11, verse 28. This is that moment. Not just rest from work, rest from worry, rest from performance, rest from trying to be your own savior. You weren't made to carry what's been crushing you. And God isn't asking you to prove your faith anymore. He's asking you to fall into his. You don't need a plan. You need presence. You don't need more discipline. You need deliverance. You don't need to fight harder. You need to fall deeper into the arms of the one who never let go. Even when you did. Even when you said, I'm done. God said, I'm not. He's not done with you. Not done with your story. Not done with your calling. Not done with your future. This isn't the end. It's the beginning, a new chapter, written not with effort, but with intimacy, not with pressure, but with presence. And this time, you won't have to carry it alone, because God isn't just giving you strength. He's giving you himself. And that changes everything. You thought closed doors meant God said no. You assumed the silence meant the opportunity had passed. You knocked, waited, and when nothing opened, you walked away. Not because you didn't believe anymore, but because the silence hurt too much. So you stopped asking, stopped knocking, stopped dreaming about that open door. But what if the door wasn't closed because of rejection? What if it was protection? What if God delayed the opening not to punish you, but to prepare you? See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Revelation 3 verse 8. No one, not people, not circumstances, not even you. When God opens a door, it's not fragile. It's not political. It's not dependent on who likes you, supports you, or recognizes you. It's sovereign. That means when it opens, it's because heaven authorized it. And no one can override that. But here's the part we forget. Sometimes the most powerful doors don't open with noise. They open in silence. While you're still grieving, while you're still waiting, while you're still healing. Suddenly, things shift, and no one claps. No one announces it. No one even sees it yet. But the door, it moves. God has been preparing the path. Quietly, while you were worshiping through tears, while you were obeying in obscurity, while you were healing behind the scenes. Heaven has been unlocking things, not because of your perfection, but because of your persistence. You stayed. You didn't force it. You didn't manipulate it. You didn't post your way into promotion. You trusted, even when it felt unfair, even when it looked like everyone else was moving forward and you were left behind. But you weren't behind. You were being hidden, not overlooked, anointed in secret. And now, God is opening what no hand can close, not for your ego, but for his glory, because the world doesn't need another celebrity. It needs a consecrated vessel, and that's what he's made of you, in the quiet, in the crushing, in the questions. He's shaped you into someone who doesn't need applause to stay faithful. That's why this next door won't break you. You won't idolize it. You won't cling to it. You'll walk through it, humble, grateful, steady, because you know what it cost. You know what it took to get here. You know the nights you almost gave up, and you know who carried you through them. So now when the door opens, it won't be about arrival. It will be about assignment. You're not stepping into a moment to be seen. You're stepping into a mantle to be used. And God's going to use you, not in the way you imagined, but in the way heaven planned. You'll speak, and people will feel something shift. You'll show up, and the atmosphere will change. You'll walk into rooms that once ignored you and carry the authority of someone who's been with God, not because of training, because of transformation, not because of strategy, because of surrender. God is not just opening doors. He's opening divine assignments. And your yes is what activates them. You don't need to push. You don't need to beg. Just say, God, if you open it, I'll walk through it. And then trust him. Trust that he knows the timing. Trust that he sees what you can't. Trust that if the door hasn't opened yet, it's because the moment isn't ready, or you're not supposed to walk through that one. Some closed doors weren't the enemy. They were mercy. They saved you from distractions, from relationships that would have derailed you, from platforms that would have crushed you. Let those doors stay closed and give thanks, because the ones that are opening now, they're from him. They're holy. They're permanent. They're yours. So lift your head. The silence wasn't the end. It was the setup, and heaven's hand is on the handle. The door is moving. Get ready. This isn't just another chapter. This is the moment you realize he never left. Through all the silence, through all the sorrow, through every unanswered question, he stayed. Not out of obligation, not from a distance, but right here, in your room, in your breaking, in your healing, in the moments no one else witnessed. He was a presence behind the peace you couldn't explain. The warmth in the room when you thought you were alone. The calm that didn't make sense. The hope that wouldn't die. The strength that came out of nowhere. It was never you holding yourself up. It was always him. Even when I walk to the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23, verse 4. With me, not watching. That's who God is. Not a distant ruler, not a cold judge, but a father, one who walks in when everyone else walks out, one who doesn't flinch when you fall apart, one who doesn't demand perfection before offering presents. And now, you know that for yourself. This entire journey has been about more than breakthrough, more than open doors, more than healing. It's been about union. God didn't just want to fix your life. He wanted to reclaim your heart, because a healed life without him at the center is still empty. But a heart rooted in him, even in broken places, will never be without meaning. Now you see it. The silence wasn't abandonment. It was invitation. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was holy. The breaking wasn't the end. It was becoming. Becoming who you were created to be. Not defined by pain. Not driven by pressure. But anchored in presence. That's your foundation now. So even if storms come, and they will, you will not be shaken. Because now you know, even if the door closes, even if the answer delays, even if the feeling fades, he's still here. That truth alone rewrites your story. No longer a victim of circumstances. You're a carrier of peace, a witness to resurrection, a living testimony that God still meets people in the ordinary and transforms them in the sacred quiet. You've changed, not because your life got easier, but because you stopped running. You stopped hiding. You stopped pretending. You stopped trying to be your own savior. And when you let go, God stepped in, fully, finally, faithfully, and he's not leaving. Surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. Matthew 28, verse 20. So now what? You live from that presence. You lead from that peace. You walk through open doors with confidence, not because you know everything, but because you know him. You will not be perfect, but you will be anchored. You may feel fear, but you will not be ruled by it. You may face uncertainty, but you will not be alone in it, because this time you've learned to stay in the presence, in the stillness, in the place where God speaks, not always loud, but always clear. You've heard him say, I am here. I was always here, and I will never leave. And now your soul knows it, not as a sermon, not as a quote, but as truth. And from this truth, you will rise, stronger, softer, still, held,